Mark, first things first, I want to start a little review of what happened this past weekend against the Penn State Nittany Lions. Of course, Ohio State wins that game 38-14. First half looked a little I thought that there was a lot of Ohio State fans that were a little too upset about the first half. I thought that fumble kind of ruined any big momentum that the Buckeyes had. It felt like we were going to get the ball back and kind of put the game away there on that drive. But what was your overall thoughts of the first half? What did you like? What didn't you like?
Well, first of all, I had an issue with at the point that play was blown dead, the CJ Donaldson fumble, because it's one thing when a back or a receiver's in the open field and let's say two guys have a hold of him and he pretty much knows he's not going to go anywhere, but he chooses to fight and fight and fight, which is great sometimes, but they get an opportunity, to hold him up, strip the ball from him. Well, that was his decision to fight for extra yardage. In this case, CJ Donaldson gets stood up at the line and he can't go down if he wants to. He pretty much is just stacked up in a mosh pit and he's getting pushed back, and it just seemed like they waited forever to blow the whistle and he wasn't making forward progress. He was getting pushed back and they take the ball away from him. So anyway, they obviously come back from that, but that was, a play Penn State made to set themselves up at the 15-yard line and make it a ball game at halftime when it looked like Ohio State would be able to, extend a 17-7 lead. So obviously that took it from being not a dominant first half, but a first half in which they controlled the game, were clearly the better team, to, we've got a 3-point game at halftime and things are going to have to happen. So it was good to see them come out in the second half and immediately drive down the field, reestablish control. And I just love the passing game. I love the way they've kind of orchestrated this entire season to say early on, we believe in our defense and we want to bring our running game along. And as long as our defense can win the games, we're going to protect Julian Sand, meaning not just protect him in the pocket, but protect him from a play calling standpoint and give him a little bit more every week. Seemed like maybe against Minnesota, they let him take more shots downfield and it's just continued. Wisconsin and on and on. And then I don't think they had I know that I just saw a stat that's crazy that he and Geno Smith are the only quarterbacks since 1985 to have three consecutive. Did you see this stat? They had three consecutive 300-yard games, 85% completion percentage, 3 TDs, no picks.
I remember that Geno Smith season.
Yeah. But the game, the way it was orchestrated was just a thing of beauty.
Few stats here. Speaking of the passing offense, Julian Sand, 20 of 23, 316 yards, 4 touchdowns. Of course, the big thing there, him having more touchdowns than incompletions. Carnell Tate, 5 receptions, 124 and a touchdown, long 57. Jeremiah Smith, 6 for 123, 2 touchdowns, 57. Also, Brandon Ennis chipping in there with 41. Wills Kazmarek, 14. Definitely Julian's best game. Blake Ruffino over from the Ruffino and Joe show, he said that was the best game he has seen from a quarterback all season. And I think that coming to this game, the Nittany Lions were giving up about 121 pass yards a game, 158. Really glad that the run game got going. If it was a time for it to do it, it was against Penn State. All towards the fact that, the running backs didn't have a 20-yard run all through Big Ten play so far this season. And so Bo Jackson, of course, gets that 51-yard long run. I think the name that kind of gets lost in the shuffle talk about the offense is Brian Hartline. He's doing an awesome job. He's just like Julian. He's exceeded my expectations this year. How do you feel about Brian Hartline right now? Do you think how would you grade him right now?
Well, it's hard not to rate Brian Hartline as A plus 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 plus, not just this season, but going back as far as
Yeah.
he's taking control of the wide receiver position. Obviously, in that role, what can you say about him? But as an offensive coordinator, yeah, I would like them to figure some things out in the run game. Uh, you don't have to be a perfect team to win a national championship. So they can win a national championship playing basically the way they are right now. Arguably best defense in the country, arguably best pass offense in the country, decent running game. As long as they can get the runs, if they could do maybe basically three things in the run game. Get a few explosive plays out of Bo Jackson a game, and maybe 3 or 4 runs over 10 or 15 yards out of him, and get the short yardage plays, get the 3rd and 1s out of Donaldson mostly.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they get in a situation in a big game later, whether that's in 3 weeks or in the college football playoff Big Ten championship game, where they got to salt away a game with 4 minutes left with a 4-point lead, where they can show that they can push it ahead, like they did against Penn State last year, when they had the goal line stand, they still only had a 1-score lead, and they took the quarterback sneak and just drived it like 8 yards, and then just ran it, and Penn State couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, well, what was the stat? I can't remember the place and time. I want to say it was late 3rd or early 4th quarter where Penn State had 17 plays of 1 yard. And that when I heard that on the broadcast, I was just amazed by that. You want to see your team go out there and get pure domination again. Penn State, it's been a tough season for them, but I think what's really cool is that we all know that they're still one of the more, I would say, top 15 talented teams in college football.
Yep.
And just because you have talent doesn't make you a good team. So, no, I was definitely impressed with the offense. Offensive line, again, I thought they did a great job. They protected Julian. Julian does a great job of maneuvering around the pocket. Heck, they had that. It was 3rd and 5, and Julian takes off for a 9-yard run. That was probably my favorite play of the game, to be honest. Just know that he can do that. But the offensive line, from left tackle to center, I would say has been an A+. Right guard is what it is right now. I'm not going to continue to just talk about a certain player. I think Josh Padilla should be getting most of the reps there. I think he's earned that, because the truth of the matter is he's younger, and if he's giving us the same production as some other players, then I think then he might as well just play. And then Philip Daniels, he can be better in pass pro, but I'm okay with him. I think him being nasty out there as a player. I think I can live with that. But yeah, just another great performance by them. Run pro was great too, I thought so.
Yeah. And on the defensive side, watching that game, I don't think there was any question that Ethan Grunkenmeyer obviously was in over his head, as expected. I feel bad for the guy. I can't imagine a tougher string of assignments to start a career. Now, he's been around Penn State for a year and a half, but this was supposed to be his team next year. But to go to Iowa on the road for his first start, they've got the number 2 defense in the country. To face Ohio State, the number 1 defense in the country, and in his second start, and now he's got Indiana, who's playing as well as anybody, obviously. So you saw, obviously, he's not going to have the rapport with the receivers that Drew Aller had. I think that's pretty obvious. However, if you look at Penn State's offensive production versus the last 2 years with Drew Aller at quarterback against Ohio State, no difference. They scored 13 points last year. They had a pick 6, so they even did more in this game offensively. And then the year before, they scored 12. It was, I think, a 20-12 Buckeyes win, and Penn State didn't score until there was like 30 seconds left in the game. So Drew Aller, no Drew Aller, this offense isn't going to do anything against that defense. They had the big play on the first play of the game. Was that the first play of the game? The very first play of the game came from Allen. And obviously, Ohio State didn't let that happen again. They had the drive where they did a lot of things with their two backs. And those guys are having an underachieving season, but I think that's based on a lot of other issues.
Especially Singleton.
Yeah, Singleton's really down at 3.6 yards per carry coming into this game, and that did not improve. That went down. But they mixed and matched and did some things, and did some counters and pulled some guards and tackles and did some things that put the Buckeyes on the defensive. But they obviously then adjusted to that, and there was no more of that.
Well, before we talk a little bit more about the defense here for everybody, and if you didn't know, the Buckeyes right now are 10-0-1 against the spread. And speaking of spreads and covering, quick message here from the voice of college football.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the voice of college football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
Garrison, you got like 30 seconds to let me complain about my picks this past weekend. Hey, Garrison, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
I was just saying, you got 30 seconds for me to complain about my picks this past weekend.
Oh, please do. You can take more.
Here's some bad beats for you. Like, anybody who predicts games or bets games always finds bad beats. So it happens to all of us all the time. But this is almost unprecedented. So I picked 19 games this past weekend, and 2 of them I lost by a half a point. That seems to have been happening to me like 2 or 3 every week. Like, I got Stanford in 14.5, they lose by 15. I got Virginia Tech in 11.5, they lose by 12. So there's 2 of those. And then I had Cal +6. They're losing by 3. There's seconds left in the game. Like, I'm talking like 10 seconds left in the game. They throw a pick 6 on the last play of the game to lose by 10. And then get this, the last one, I've got Georgia to cover a touchdown. They're up 4. Gunnar Stockton's walking in for a touchdown. There's about a minute left. I don't know if you saw this play. And he knelt down at the 1-yard line. So they didn't score.
Yeah.
He took the knee at the 1, which is the smart play to make. I get it. But
not for Ryan Day.
He had a walk-in touchdown to win by 11, and he kneeled down. So even with all that, I still went 12-7 against the spread.
Mark, so 6 months ago I placed a $50 bet. Now the season I had for this player didn't go as projected for this team, but I thought there was still a chance in this game, and I got really excited during the game. I had put $50 on Florida beating Georgia some time ago, and I was just this close. And then when I saw them call that an incompletion, I went ballistic in I went ballistic in the living room.
Well,
I actually want to talk about that game a little bit later in the show.
Okay.
But no, I want to move to the defense real quick. What first I want to ask you this. When Matt Patricia was hired by Ryan Day to come to Columbus, Ohio, what were your first thoughts?
Well, my first thoughts were that I personally didn't have any issue with it. The guy was a first-rate defensive coordinator with the New England Patriots, winning Super Bowls. So from that standpoint, that was my take on Matt Patricia, me personally. But I started to hear from this person, that person, and various people that I trusted to a certain degree, had some level of respect, that talked about how he didn't get along with players, how he didn't relate to players well, that, there certain people had takes on why he didn't succeed at Detroit as a head coach and how that was connected to running a defense. So I didn't think it was I didn't know if it was great. I didn't criticize it. My approach to my analysis is I have very strong opinions about a lot of things. Other things I say, I don't know. I'm going to have to wait and see. Like this person saying this and this person saying that, but I wasn't hot or cold on his hire. It wasn't like Jim Knowles, where I was pretty strong in support of that hire. Not that he had a great run at Oklahoma State. He had a great closing 2 years at Oklahoma State that looked good. So I was much more in support of Jim Knowles. The Matt Patricia, I was more like, at some point, I think you got to trust the operation. You got to trust it's almost like people have an issue with this. I argue with Corey Brad about this all the time. When I rank players in the preseason, like when I was telling him in the preseason, well, Julian Saint's going to be the best quarterback in the Big Ten. He's like, how can you say that? You've never seen him play. Like, never played. Well, I can trust that if Ohio State and Ryan Day needed a quarterback, they would do what they did last year and go get a transfer quarterback. But they know what their standards are, and they believe that they've got it right there. So it's like when Nick Saban named Bryce Young as the starter as a redshirt freshman before they even went to spring practice. And Nick Saban has always let guys battle it out when he didn't have an incumbent quarterback all the way into August. But that particular year, he said, Bryce Young is the starting quarterback. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to rank him like second or third in the country. People are like, he's never played. Well, I'm going to trust Nick Saban. I'm going to trust Ryan Day to tell me. So I'm trusting the hiring process is basically what I'm trusting. Ryan Day and the hiring process there with Matt Patricia. So that's about where I stood.
That's where I was. Honestly, I thought that Ryan Day has kind of earned the Buckeye fan trust of the going after the hires he gets. I think he gets the right people. I mean, just some of the stats from this game. And by the way, Arvell Reese, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. Right now, the Ohio State team is giving up 6.9 points per game, 81.8 rush yards, 133 pass. Mark, in comparison to what I believe to be the best Ohio State defense in program history, also on the same, I think it's the best team in Ohio State history. The 2019 defense gave up 104 rush yards compared to this team's 81, 156 pass compared to 133, and then a whole point more, 7.9 per game. And that's just to show what level this defense has been playing on. I mean, at all three levels, from the D line to the linebackers. I think a player doesn't get talked about enough is Peyton Pierce. I like to mention a lot of times during the fall. During the fall, James Laurinaitis said that he views Peyton Pierce on the same level as Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. And I think whenever he gets on the field, he plays that way. The secondary looks better than last year. I think Devin Sanchez has been great, and with Lorenzo, those Styles being out, and they say he's supposed to come back this week, so good for him. I think Jermaine Matthews has been great. Has been great no matter where you put him. I think whether it be in coverage, whether it be at the nickel, whether it be at the boundary, whether you ask him to come off the blitz and get to the quarterback and force a fumble and get a sack, he does that. And then I haven't even mentioned Caleb Downs yet. It's a I'm on the verge of putting this team up there with some of the best Ohio State teams I've ever seen. I need to see the run game be a little bit better. But man, right now, I don't think any Ohio State fan outside of maybe Caden the Diesel. Outside of him, I don't think anybody else would have called this or seen it coming.
You threw out a stat a couple of weeks ago that was pretty eye-popping, and I don't know where it stands now, but I got to think it still holds up pretty well about the defensive line. When you looked at, this might have been after maybe the Washington game,
yes,
somewhere early in the Big Ten season, about, we know what they lost off last year's defensive front, that and how dominant those guys were. And then that this defensive front had more sacks and more TFLs against better competition. That team faced 3 cream puffs in the non-conference, and the first Big Ten game was somebody lousy, and I think it was Michigan State. Anyway, and this team had Texas, Washington, and another decent team in there, maybe
Ohio,
and Ohio, yeah, but better TFL and sack numbers than the defensive front from last year is pretty impressive. And obviously, Kenyatta Jackson is having a great season.
Yeah, him, Caden Curry. I'm very proud of him because he was someone that over the last 3 years, whenever he plays special teams, once a year he made a big play, at least twice. And he was someone I thought had a high motor, someone I always thought that was going to be a really good player. So seeing him lead the team in sacks, I think he's tied second right now in the Big Ten in sacks. It's really cool seeing him do that. The defensive tackles, I think, are probably the most impressive unit for me in terms of based off of what I think a lot of people thought it was going to be. A lot of people thought there was a lot of depth missing there. Caden McDonald is solidifying himself as one of the best defensive tackles in the country. Tyler Malone has been a long ride, but he looks awesome out there. Edric Houston, over the last 2 games, he's starting to come along. I think that game of the year he wasn't playing that well, but he also was getting some dumb penalties. But now I think he's kind of put it together. And then I think the 2 of the more important guys on this team, Jason Moore and Will Smith Jr., son of the late Will Smith Sr., those 2 have been playing awesome when they get on the field. And I thought that was it 2 games ago when it was 2 plays in a row where Jason Morse, plugged the middle, got the tackle, and we would have gotten the 4th and 1 stop had Caleb Downs, of all people, not tackled the ball carrier forward. So, this defense has been it's awesome. It's great. You can't really run on them. You can't pass on them. For a guy like Ethan Gruntmeyer, and shout out to him, I thought he handled himself well in the game for being how young he is. I think I'd probably also a real cool moment for him being from Ohio, again, from Olentangy, getting a chance to play at the Horseshoe. But what can you expect for a kid like him going against that Ohio State defense? It is what it is. Any last thoughts on it, Mark?
Yeah, obviously, you always want to see the best play the best. So, we could all kind of look across the country and see the kind of offenses that we want to see Ohio State's defense go up against. Maybe they'll get one in the Big Ten championship game in Indiana, who's we know about Fernando Mendoza and what he's doing in the pass game, but they get a little undersold in the run game. They've been pretty devastating running the football. They crammed it down Maryland's throats for like 370 yards rushing, and they've been doing that pretty consistently. Roman Hemby and the rest of the crew there outside of the Big Ten, and obviously Oregon would be a great challenge. USC would be interesting. Not that they're going to face them in a Big Ten championship game, but just looking at different offenses across the country. Alabama, Ty Simpson. I don't know if they could protect him well enough, but those receivers, Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, would be a great challenge with Simpson, who's outside of Julian Sand, I think, throwing the ball about as well as anybody in the country. So, yeah, we'll see come college football playoff time with some of the better offenses in the country how truly good the defense is.
Do you currently believe Ryan Day will send 2 players to the Heisman ceremony for the second time?
Yeah, and really have to look at the field because obviously we're talking Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sand. Obviously, the odds are against it.
Yep.
Any team having 2 players, but if the committee is really doing its job and choosing the 4 best players, regardless of team, then, and Jeremiah Smith, obviously he's got a lot of momentum going with his numbers, and now that they're in the flow, he's really racking up the numbers after a slow start.
Yeah.
So yeah, big Michigan game would be huge.
Yeah, I've been telling Ohio State fans, Mark, it sounds, you might want to scrub your mouth after you say it, but if you want our guys to have a Heisman moment, you need Michigan to win out, at least until they play us. Like you kind of need that.
Yeah.
Before we continue here, everyone, just so you know, if you're just now joining Mark and you'd like to listen to the beginning of the show, you can go ahead and see us live on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. Listen to the playback there. Real quick before we move on to the Purdue Boilermakers in the second half of the show, Mark, want to talk about some games, a couple games here that happened around the country. UGA beating Florida, as we mentioned earlier, and me losing my $50 on that. Oh man, I'm really mad about that. But what did you think about that game? My mind is stuck on one play and one play only, so I think knowing that my money has been involved in this game, it's better to listen to you right now.
Well, I was going to say you take it away because, man, you're fired up about this small game.
Well, I'll give you 30 seconds about it.
Yeah, I don't know that I need 30 seconds because you can blame YouTube TV and, well, most notably, you can blame Disney and ESPN. I didn't see one play of the game. So I didn't know anything about that until, looking at my phone about a half hour before the kickoffs at noon and figured, okay, I'm not going to be able to watch any SEC games. I was going to watch Texas and Vandy. I was going to watch Georgia, Florida. I got basically a 2-game lineup at each broadcast window and then a third game on another set that I can hardly pay attention to. And that's kind of my setup. So the SEC got shut out for me on Saturday. I was watching more Big 12 football than I cared to. So I did not see Georgia and Florida. I knew nothing about what happened in that game. I'm sure I could pull it up on YouTube and watch it now, but I did not prepare for that one. So I got no thoughts except I was expecting Georgia to be more decisively a winner in that game.
Yeah, it was. I watched the highlights. It was tough to watch because there was a moment there where I was riding high. But then I forgot that Georgia, though they may be one of the worst first half teams in college football, they're one of the best second half teams. And Florida is a team with troubles. And then it showed up and it reared its ugly head. And I thankfully I made this bet some months, almost half a year ago, so I couldn't be too sad about it. If I did this maybe a month ago, I'd been pissed off. Then before we get to the other 2 games, I want to give a shout out here to B. Vargo for becoming a YouTube member here at Ohio State, the voice of college football. Appreciate you, man.